Hey, and welcome to this video on Claude Skills. My name's Owain, I'm a director of engineering, and I've been a software engineer for the last 20 years. I'm going to show you in this video how you can use a new feature from Claude called Skills, and how you can use those skills in the UI within tools like Claude Code, and then also within the Anthropic SDK. If you're building AI agents or AI systems, you can also use Claude Code skills there as well. So you've probably seen this workflow 100 times where you start a new Claude chat, you copy over your prompts, you paste in context, and you end up repeating yourself over and over. So for example, a task that I do a lot is writing. I might have to give prompt guidance on how I want to write. I might have to give it context about my business or what I do over and over again. And with Claude Skills, you can avoid that problem by just defining the information once and then packaging that up as a skill. I found this a really, really useful feature. I'm currently building skills for everything I do daily, and it's just been a really powerful feature. Okay, so the way you manage skills, if you go to the settings tab, and then if you click on capabilities, you can see that firstly, you need the code execution of file creation setting enabled. But then if you scroll down here, you can see the skills feature, repeatable, customizable instructions that Claude can follow in any chat. You can upload a skill. You can see here there are a couple of built-in skills, even a skill to create skills, which is kind of interesting. And I used this to create some of the skills that I did initially. This is really, really powerful. You can just go to Claude and you can say, please make me a skill to write documents. And then you can give it your writing examples and your context, and it will help you build that skill. I have a couple of skills here that I've added myself. So I have a LinkedIn post generator skill, a VEO3 image prompt generator skill, and a newsletter writing skill as well. And you can click on here, you can upload, you drag in a zip file, and then it will add this skill. So essentially a skill is just a folder that contains a skill.md file. This is just a markdown file. It has a section at the top which tells Claude about the skill and when it should be used. And then you have the set of instructions below that. You can also add in some supporting files and resources. You can add in things like documents, scripts, templates that you might want to use. Then you can also package in things like Python scripts or JavaScript code. And that makes Claude Skills really, really powerful because you can actually have Claude execute code, which makes your workflows really, really powerful potentially. The beauty of Claude Skills is that they work everywhere. So you can use them within the Claude UI, you can use them in Claude Code, and you can also use them in the API. You build the skill once, and then it follows you across every Claude product you use. The other thing I don't hear people mentioning is that these would be really effective if you work in a software team, for example, or any kind of team environment where you can define a skill and then you can share it with lots of people and then they can use it within their day-to-day work. So to give you an example, you might have a set of writing guidelines or brand guidelines. You might have a code review standard that your team follows. You can define that as a skill, and then people can use that within the Claude desktop app. They can use it when they're using tools like Claude Code. They can use it basically anywhere within their workflow. So this is roughly what a skill looks like. Let's take a look. You have this metadata at the top where you give a name for your skill and a description, and then you give specific instructions. You zip it up, and then you upload it to Claude. All right, so let's take a look at an example. So I'm going to ask Claude to use an existing skill. So we're going to say, write a LinkedIn post titled 7 mistakes that new managers make and how to avoid them. So this is just like a generic LinkedIn post. But what's interesting is because I've mentioned writing a LinkedIn post, it's realized that it needs to use the post generator skill. So it's correctly identified that it needs to go and load all of the skill information. Now it's going to read all of the files and understand best practices, and then it's going to go ahead and create a post. So this is codifying everything I've learned about writing LinkedIn posts in the last year or two, but it's got all of that knowledge in one place. I spent the last 7 years in engineering management, so it actually knows about my background and how many years I've been a manager for, because I actually codified that into the skill itself. It's written a listicle. The details of the post don't matter. But what's interesting is it followed my exact CTA. So it's following a step-by-step guide on creating LinkedIn posts. This is just one really good example of where you can speed up your workflow. This is a thing I do every single day. I've defined the skill once, and now Claude can use that in any conversation. It knows how to write these posts perfectly. All All right, so if you're interested, I've uploaded the skills to my GitHub, and you can kind of see what this one looks like. So I think the LinkedIn one is private, but let's just take a quick look at what it looks like. The LinkedIn skill is here, just a single markdown file. But as you can see here at the top, we have this description and a name for the skill. We've defined a trigger. So whenever we say things like create a LinkedIn post, I've given it a bit of background about myself. And then we've got a really detailed, like, standard operating procedure guiding it through how to write really great LinkedIn hooks. We've given it instructions about how to start the post. You can see here there's a lot of detail that's gone into this particular set of instructions. I've added, this is the exact CTA I want you to use on every single post. And then I've also given it some complete post examples as well, which just means that Claude, whenever it comes to write a LinkedIn post, it loads all of this information and it's able to execute the task perfectly when I ask it to. All right, so I'll just quickly show you what this looks like with Claude Code. So if we take a look in this folder, you can see that here I have a Claude directory. And then if we go into this Claude directory, so we go into .claude, skills, you can see here that I have a code review skill. And then if I take a look at the actual skill, I've got a code review skill that I've uploaded. And so because this is in a special folder, because this is in the this .claude skills folder, it will automatically register with Claude Code. So I'm going to open up Claude Code. And we're going to say list the skills that you have available. All right, so you can see here, because we put it in the right directory, Claude Code actually has access to that, and it can see that the code review skills allows it to, check for code quality, best practices, etc. So we're going to say review the Python code in this repo using the code review skill. And so now Claude is going to go and use that skill. This was just an example that I put together for this particular video, so it's not the best code review guide in the world, but it's going to ask us if we can use the skill. And so now what should happen is that Claude should do a code review, but it should use the specific guidance that we gave it within the actual skill. All right, so it's done a pretty good job at a code review. It's gone through all of the code. There wasn't a large amount of code in this repo anyway, and it's mostly demonstration code, so it's all fine. But missing error handling for API calls, hard-coded skill IDs, done a great job at a code review. All right, so now I'm going to switch to something different, which is how to use the new skills feature within inside your code using things like the Anthropic client. So if you're building an AI agent or something like that, you can actually use your skills for that agent or for that AI system. So let's load this code. The first thing we're going to do is instantiate the client. We're just using the regular Anthropic client. I'm also using this helper to load files from directory, which I'll show you why you need that in a second. So what we're going to do is we're just going to load the Anthropic client. And then what we can do is we could go ahead and create a skill. So we can create a VO3 image prompt skill. I have one here on my local machine. And essentially what this skill does is I asked Claude to generate this VO3 prompting skill. I gave it the official prompting guide for VO3, and it was able to do this really, really detailed, beautiful guide to how to create a perfect image to video model prompt. So you can see here, this has got a really great amount of detail. Apply the 5-part formula. We're using cinematography, subject, action, context. This is like expert level knowledge. This is really, really deep and detailed amount of information that Claude now has access to. So I think this is just a really powerful feature. We have some additional reference files as well, such as this advanced workflow where you can generate multi-shots within your prompt. You can also there's also a detailed guide here for cinematography. So we're talking about different shot types and then, different camera movements as well. So this is actually a really valuable set of information for creating video prompts. All right, so let's run this example now, and I'm going to go ahead and create the skill. Okay, so that should have worked. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to list the skills. So we're using the client, list out and iterate through all of the skills that are available. You can see here there's a couple of built-in skills that come out of the box with Claude. The PowerPoint skill, the PDF skill, but this is the one we just created, which is the VO3 prompting skill. So I'm going to copy that ID now. And then I also have a helper function here that shows you how to actually invoke the skill. So we're using the Claude Sonnet 4.5 model. We're just using the client. We're using a client messages create call. I am using some of these additional metadata parameters. So as you can see here, I'm actually defining the skills that we're going to use through this call. There's also a couple of beta options that you need to enable. I'll link to all of the code below this video so that you have access to this. I found it a little bit confusing to find this information. So let's go ahead and let's firstly just load this code in. All right, so we've loaded the create skill, and then let's go ahead and create the skill. So what we're going to do is we're going to paste in the skill ID for the VO3 prompting skill. And what I'm asking it to do, I've got a really basic video prompt. I'm going to say woman walks through a park, really terrible prompt. And we're going to ask the skill to enhance that prompt, basically. So let's go and do that and see what happens. And so what it should do is it should go and read through all of the instructions on how to write a VO3 prompt. And it should use that information to generate a much better version of the one I wrote when I sent this prompt in. Okay, so you can see here, it's done a good job. So medium shot with smooth tracking. It's given a description of the character, the environment, movement, ambient noise. So it knows that VO3 is a video model that has audio built in. So it's actually added some sound effects and ambient background music. This is a really good job. This is a really high quality video prompt, and it's using the domain knowledge it has from the skill we uploaded. So if you want to learn more about creating skills via the SDK or the client, I found this really helpful resource, which is the Claude Notebook. And it contains a whole load of code examples that you can take a look at. It's describing in depth about what a skill is. It's talking about we said the YAML front matter, and then the instructions. So it gives you a guide on how to create skills. And it also just has some code examples, which are going to be really, really useful. I also have uploaded the code for this tutorial to GitHub as well, and you can get access to it here if you want to. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. I think Claude Skills are a really, really powerful feature. I'm using them all of the time in my workflow. They allow you to package up anytime you find yourself doing a task, maybe repeatedly across different conversations. So that could be writing a document, analyzing a spreadsheet, creating social media content, anything where you need a set of standard operating procedures or instructions. Package them up as a skill, and you can use them anytime you're having a conversation with Claude. I think this is a really powerful and really underrated and potentially misunderstood feature. I expect a lot of the other AI providers to copy this at some point as well, because I think it's a great abstraction that works really, really well. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe. It really makes a difference, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.